Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a complete verse-by-verse breakdown of our source material, a seriously fascinating ancient narrative on the paradox of power. We are pulling directly from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14. This is a profound ancient text that wrestles with a question that feels just as relevant today as it did thousands of years ago. What exactly happens when a desperate need for leadership collides head-on with the catastrophic reality of absolute tyranny? Here's our roadmap for all 46 verses. We'll start with the rise of the tyrant King Vena, move into the sages attempting to counsel him, witness his ultimate hubris and destruction, and finally look at the wild aftermath of anarchy and mystical churning. All right, let's get right into Act 1, the rise of tyrant King Vena, covering verses 1 through 12. So in verses 1 and 2, the great sages, led by Bhrigu, are watching society essentially collapse. Without a ruler, they see people starting to act literally like animals. To stop this lawless chaos, they make a super controversial call. They bring in Queen Sunitha and crown her son Vena as the master of the world. The catch here? They do this knowing full well about his deeply cruel and wicked nature. They just assumed it was the lesser of two evils. Well, things go downhill incredibly fast in verses 3 to 6. Vena's brutal rule technically accomplishes its first goal. It definitely stops crime. The text says thieves hid like rats terrified of a snake. But the power completely goes to his head. He starts roaming the earth in his chariot like an uncontrolled elephant, and gets so arrogant that he totally outlaws all religious duties, charity, and sacrifices. He literally beats drums across the kingdom to enforce this ban. Verse 7 shows the sages watching this cruelty with absolute grief, which brilliantly sets up the dilemma in verse 8. The sages realize the citizens are caught in an impossible trap. On one side, you have the fear of lawless thieves. On the other, a tyrannical king. They're stuck right in the middle, exactly like a log of wood burning at both ends. Realizing they've made a massive miscalculation in verses 9 through 12, the sages own up to their shared responsibility. They knew Vernachno was inherently bad news. I mean, they compare it to nourishing a snake with milk. It only makes the venom stronger. But since they installed him, they know it's their mess to clean up. To keep his terrible sins from staining their own karma, they decide they absolutely have to intervene diplomatically and try to reason with the guy. Which brings us to Act 2, the sages counsel the king, spanning verses 13 to 22. Verses 13 through 20 are just an absolute masterclass in diplomacy. The sages approach him super softly, laying out a logical, structured path. They argue that a king who protects his people from corruption and honors the Supreme Lord ultimately gets everything he wants anyway. It's a win-win. When citizens do their duty, the realm prospers, cosmic order is maintained, and the king is naturally elevated. They appeal right to his self-interest in verses 21 and 22. They're basically saying, hey, don't disrespect this process. They explain that the cosmic forces, the demigods, provide all the necessities for life when society follows spiritual laws. By allowing sacrifices, Vena isn't losing power. He is actually ensuring the wealth of his own domain. But unfortunately, absolute power has completely blinded him. And that kicks off Act 3, Hubris and Instant Destruction, covering verses 23 to 35. This ideological clash in verses 23 to 27 is wild. Vadana fires back, literally calling the sages childish fools. He argues they're abandoning their true provider, him, to worship some invisible god. Vadana lists out the primary demigods like Vishnu, Shiva, and Indra, and flat out declares that the king is the physical embodiment of all of them combined. Verse 28 is the ultimate blasphemy. He demands that all worship, all taxes, and all offerings be redirected exclusively to himself. He genuinely believes, without a shred of irony, that there is absolutely no higher authority in the universe than his own throne. Well, diplomacy completely shatters in verses 29 to 33. The insulted sages realize reasoning is entirely off the table. They recognize his utter blasphemy and realize that leaving this narcissist alive will literally reduce the world to ashes. They conclude right then and there that he is completely unfit for the royal seat. You just can't negotiate with absolute tyranny. Then in verse 34, we hit the shocking climax. The sages take action, but they don't even use physical weapons. Their sheer, concentrated spiritual fury manifests in a single vocal outcry, the sound "whom." and it strikes King Vena dead on the spot. His blasphemy against the Supreme Order literally became his own executioner. Verse 35 offers this brief, haunting pause in the action. After the sages leave, Vena's mother, Queen Sunitha, steps in. Driven by deep grief, she uses ancient mystic knowledge and special herbs to preserve her son's lifeless body from decaying. And this little detail? It sets up an unbelievable resolution to the story. Welcome to Act 4, Anarchy and Mystical Churning, taking us through our final verses, 36 to 46. You'd think killing the tyrant brings instant peace, right? Not exactly. In verses 36 and 37, the sages are relaxing by the river Saraswati when they suddenly notice terrifying signs in the environment around them. They start to wonder, with the world entirely without a master again, is disaster about to strike the innocent? By verses 38 through 40, their absolute worst fears are confirmed. Massive dust storms are kicking up in all directions because gangs of thieves are rushing around, plundering the citizens. The exact anarchy the sages tried to prevent in Act 1 has returned with a vengeance, simply because they removed the ruler. Society plummets right back into lawlessness. This leads to a really powerful realization in verse 41 that honestly applies just as much to us today. The sages know that if you have the power to stop innocent people from suffering but choose to sit back and do nothing, your own spiritual standing is destroyed. It leaks away, just like water dripping from a cracked pot. So in verse 42, they establish a plan. They absolutely refuse to let the righteous royal lineage of the previous king, Anga, end with the corrupt Vena. They resolve to revive the line, but they have to do it by extracting a pure successor directly from Vena's preserved remains. Yeah, it gets pretty mystical from here. In verse 43, they gather around Vefna's body and they use a forceful, mystical churning process on his lifeless thigh. I know, it sounds bizarre, but the goal is to physically separate out his terrible qualities. And from this intense churning, a unique, dwarf-like man is suddenly born. Verses 44 through 46 describe this newly born being, Bahuka. He's described as having a dark complexion, short limbs, and copper hair. He bows to the sages and asks what he should do, and they simply tell him to sit down. The crazy part here is that he literally absorbs all of Vena's horrific karma and extracted sins. By pulling all that darkness and corruption out of the dead king's body, the sages pave the way for a pure, untainted successor to eventually be born. And that wraps up chapter 14. As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. What does it truly take to separate the sins of power from the duty of governance? The sages literally had to churn the corruption out of the system to prepare for righteous leadership. It's such a wild ancient metaphor that still hits really hard today. Thanks for hanging out with me for this breakdown, and keep exploring the structures that shape our world.
Imagine society is just completely collapsing, just total lawlessness.
Right, like a complete breakdown. Every person for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You look out your window and the social contract has basically just been shredded overnight.
Which is, a terrifying thought.
It really is. And in that situation, you wouldn't necessarily look for a saint to fix it, would you? You'd want an enforcer.
Right, because order, even brutal order, often feels much safer to people than complete unpredictable anarchy.
Yeah. To stop the chaos, you do something desperate. You find the toughest, most ruthless person available, and you just put them in charge.
But there's a risk there.
A huge risk. What happens when that cure turns out to be far, far more dangerous than the disease?
That is the big question.
So today, welcome to our deep dive. We are exploring a bizarre, honestly mystical crisis from an ancient Sanskrit text.
The Śrīmad Bhāgavatam.
Yes, specifically Canto 4, Chapter 14. We are going to unpack the rapid rise, the terrifying reign, and the, supernatural downfall of a ruler named King Vena.
And it's not just ancient politics. It is a profound exploration of power, consequence, and what happens when absolute power meets absolute narcissism.
I mean, it's a masterclass in the mechanics of cosmic balance.
It really is. So we start with a massive existential crisis.
Right, set the stage for us.
So the great sages of the world, led by a figure named Bhrigu, are surveying the state of the earth.
And it's not looking good.
Not at all. They realize that without a sovereign king, society is rapidly degenerating into something unrecognizable.
They actually observe what they call a pashu samyatam, right? An almost immediate descent into animalistic behavior.
Exactly. So without a central authority to enforce the law, the strong are just simply preying on the weak.
Basically the purge.
Yeah, pretty much. And in the Vedic worldview, the sages act as the spiritual guardians of the cosmos. They don't rule directly, but they're responsible for maintaining the overarching moral and, spiritual order.
Okay, so when they see the societal collapse, they recognize it as a threat to the very fabric of reality.
Right. They need a sovereign, desperately.
So they need an enforcer to stop the bleeding, but who do they actually pick?
They choose a man named Vena. He's the son of a woman named Sunitha.
Okay.
But they do this knowing full well that he is entirely unfit.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they're fully aware that he is cruel, aggressive, and just wicked by nature.
Okay, let's unpack this because that sounds like a spectacularly bad idea.
It does.
It's like, I don't know, hiring a known embezzler to be your company's CEO just because you're terrified of leaving the corner office empty for another week.
That's a great way to put it.
You're gambling everything on the desperate hope that the prestige of the title will magically fix the person's character flaws.
It is a calculated, albeit disastrous risk. The sages are hoping the institution of the throne itself might constrain his baser instincts.
Or maybe point them in the right direction.
Right. At the very least, they hope his natural aggression will be directed purely at the thieves and the rogues who are currently tearing society apart.
Which, to be fair, actually works for a minute.
It does. His absolute power manifests immediately, and the crime wave just stops.
These ruthless bandits are literally scattering like rats fleeing a snake.
Yeah, the immediate localized fear of this new tyrant completely overrides their desire to plunder.
But that localized fear is the only temporary benefit, right? Because almost immediately, the second manifestation of his power takes over.
And it is catastrophic.
Yeah, Vena becomes completely intoxicated by his new position.
He becomes puffed up by what are called the 8 opulences.
That's like wealth, beauty, strength, fame, things like that.
Exactly. He looks around at his sudden elevation, and he genuinely believes he is a self-made god.
Completely forgetting that the sages are the ones who just place the crown on his head.
Right, the ego trip to end all ego trips.
He starts acting like an uncontrolled blind elephant.
I love that analogy.
Me too. He mounts his chariot, traveling across the land, and causes the very earth and sky to tremble.
That blind elephant analogy is vital to understanding Venus psychology.
Because an elephant is already the most powerful creature in the forest.
Exactly, but a blind elephant, it crushes whatever is in its path without any discrimination.
It's completely unaware of the destruction it leaves behind.
Right, Vena has acquired immense authority, but he possesses absolutely no vision or wisdom to guide it.
And he uses that blind authority to issue a sweeping, absolute decree.
A terrifying one.
He has it announced everywhere across the land by the beat of a drum. Absolutely no sacrifices, no charity, and no oblations to the divine are allowed.
All religious acts are universally banned.
So why is banning sacrifices such a monumental disaster here? Is it just about hurting the sages' feelings, or is there a functional problem?
Oh, there's a massive functional problem.
Tell me.
If we look at the mechanics of the Vedic worldview, sacrifices and oblations aren't just symbolic rituals. They are the actual mechanisms that keep the universe running.
Ah, okay.
Think of them as the taxes paid to the cosmic administration.
So the demigods rely on these offerings.
Yes. The demigods are the administrators of natural forces. They provide rain, sunlight, wind, the very air people breathe.
Wow.
By banning these oblations, Venaki isn't just promoting a secular state. He is attempting to sever the life support system of the entire cosmos.
He's literally starving the forces that keep the planet habitable.
Exactly.
So if Venati is cutting off the cosmic supply chain, the universe's life support is failing.
Right.
And the people who instituted this rule, the sages must be feeling the intense karmic heat of this disaster.
They are thrown into a profound moral panic.
Understandably.
The sages realize the public is now caught in a horrific dual threat. They compare the citizens to a log of wood that is burning from both ends.
Ouch.
On one side, the people are still threatened by the lingering fear of the thieves hiding in the shadows.
And on the other side,
They're actively being consumed by the cruelty of their own king.
a burning log. You can't hold it anywhere without getting burned. There's no safe place left in society.
None at all.
And the sages realize their mistake by comparing it to feeding milk to a snake.
Yes, they nourished a venomous creature, hoping to appease it.
The underlying logic of that phrase is brilliant, though. Giving milk is traditionally an act of pure nourishment and charity.
Right.
But if you give it to a venomous snake, the milk doesn't change the snake's biology. It doesn't turn the snake into a docile pet.
The snake's digestive system simply processes that pure milk and converts it into even more venom.
Purity doesn't change biology. Biology corrupts purity.
Elevating a wicked person doesn't elevate their character, it just gives their wickedness a much larger blast radius.
Okay, so with the blast radius expanding, do they decide to assassinate him immediately?
They don't jump straight to violence.
Why not?
They decide they have to try diplomacy first.
Yeah.
This is crucial because they share the karmic responsibility for his actions.
Right, because they put him on the throne.
Exactly. If Vena destroys the world, that cosmic sin taints the sages too.
So they're ethically bound to exhaust every single peaceful option before taking drastic measures.
Yes.
But how do you even negotiate with a blind elephant?
You try to appeal to both his self-interest and the overarching mechanics of reality.
Okay, so they approach Vena and gently lay out the spiritual mechanics of leadership.
They explain that righteous rule brings tangible benefits, prosperity, increased lifespan, strength, and fame to both the ruler and the kingdom.
They lay out the cosmic supply chain for him.
They do.
They argue that if the Supreme Lord, the Yajna Purusha, the ultimate enjoyer of all sacrifices, is worshipped, all the demigods are pleased and will grant the kingdom's every desire.
They're trying to show him that being a steward of the cosmic order is actually better for his own legacy.
They are basically saying, if the Supreme Lord is satisfied, what could possibly be unattainable for you?
It's a pitch for a win-win scenario.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Vena's response is jaw-dropping.
It really is.
He completely dismisses these incredibly learned ancient sages as childish fools.
He claims they are maintaining a false sense of religion.
And he uses a deeply provocative insult to make his point.
He does. He compares them to unchaste women.
Wow.
He says that the sages are like women who ignore their actual providing husbands and instead go off to serve some paramour.
He's looking right at them, claiming that he is the one providing their livelihood.
Yes, he's calling them unfaithful for looking to the gods instead of him.
It is a complete inversion of reality.
It's taking the immediate physical reality of the state and elevating it above the subtle cosmic reality.
And then he plunges into what we can only call ultimate delusional narcissism.
He actually lists the pantheon to them.
Oh man, yeah. He states that Vishnu, Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Vayu the wind god, Yama the god of death,
The sun god, the rain god, the god of wealth, the moon god, the earth, fire, and the lord of waters.
all of them.
He says all of them reside within the body of the king.
Wait, he's not just claiming a divine right to rule like a monarch chosen by God. He is literally claiming to be the entire pantheon of gods walking around in one single body.
He declares, the king is the embodiment of all gods.
That is wild.
And because of this delusion, he demands that all sacrifices, all taxes, all oblations, and all worship must be directed exclusively to him.
He asks them, who else is the foremost enjoyer but me?
So diplomacy is officially dead.
Yeah, the sages just snap. They realize Vena is completely lost, devoid of all goodness.
His blasphemy has crossed a line from which there is no return.
They conclude that if this tyrant is left alive, he is going to turn the entire world to ashes.
But they don't draw swords.
No, the method of his assassination is entirely mystical. They kill him with a roar.
A humkara and an angry sound.
The sages, filled with righteous anger, release this sound, and Vena drops dead.
Just like that.
Hold on, let me get this straight. They literally yelled at him until he died. Walk me through how that logically works. Are we just talking about magic yelling, or is there a psychological or spiritual mechanism here?
It's a profound spiritual mechanism. The narrative explicitly notes that Vena was essentially already dead.
Already dead.
Yes. His severe blasphemy against the Supreme Lord, referred to here as Acuta, the infallible one, had already drained him of his actual life force.
Oh, I see.
In this tradition, extreme arrogance and blasphemy hollow out the soul.
So he had completely hollowed himself out with his own narcissism.
Right.
The sound wasn't a weapon, it was just the physical manifestation collapsing a hollow shell.
Like shattering a wine glass with a specific frequency because the glass is already under immense invisible tension.
Precisely. His spiritual foundation was completely rotten, so a concentrated vibration of pure righteous energy was enough to physically collapse him.
Ludafil's dead.
And the sages, their grim duty done, turn their backs on the palace and leave for their ashramas.
But Vena's mother, Sunitha, is left behind, grieving over the body.
And using mystical mantras and yogic power, she preserves Vena's lifeless body. She prevents it from decaying.
Which seems at first like a mother's tragic inability to let go.
Yeah, but it becomes vital to the survival of the world.
Because sometime later, we find the sages sitting peacefully by the Sarasvati River.
They've just offered their oblations. But then they look up and see massive dust storms rising in all directions.
The sky fills with terrifying omens.
With Vena dead and no king on the throne, the vacuum of power has violently reopened.
The state is defenseless.
The thieves and rogues have realized the snake is dead.
So they have returned, and they are violently plundering the citizens all over again.
And this triggers a massive philosophical crisis for the sages. This is verse 41 of the chapter, and it is such a fascinating moment.
The sages are sitting there, supposedly these pure, detached spiritual beings.
But they realize something terrifying about the nature of their own detachment.
They uncover a fundamental truth about social responsibility.
Which is?
They realize that even if a Brahmana, a person whose entire life's purpose is to be spiritually elevated, impartial, and detached, is perfectly peaceful.
Right.
If they neglect the suffering of the poor and helpless, when they actually have the power to intervene, their spiritual power leaks away.
So a Brahmana is actually penalized for being too detached.
Yes, if that detachment turns into callous inaction.
Wow.
The narrative uses a brilliant, simple analogy. It says, spiritual power leaks from an inactive person, just like water leaking from a cracked or broken pot.
Think about what that implies for anyone. You can sit by the river, maintain perfect inner peace, and do all your mindfulness exercises.
But if the world is burning around you and you have the tools to help but choose to do nothing, your inner peace is a cracked pot.
It is fundamentally compromised. True spiritual life demands social responsibility.
So they recognize they cannot just ignore the dust storms. They are morally obligated to restore order.
But they face a massive problem. To restore order properly, they need a legitimate ruler.
Right. They remember that Vena belongs to the noble lineage of King Anga, a family line deeply devoted to Keshava, or Vishnu.
Vena was an anomaly. He was the toxic mutation in an otherwise incredibly potent, righteous family tree.
Exactly. The sages realize that the seed of this royal line is extremely powerful.
And it absolutely cannot be allowed to end just because of Vena's detour into tyranny.
But how do you restore a lineage when the only heir is a preserved corpse?
You resort to some serious ancient mysticism.
They return to the palace.
They're the preserved corpse of King Vena. And they decide to vigorously churn his thigh.
In ancient Vedic rituals, fire is often created by churning two pieces of wood, called arani, together.
Okay.
It uses friction to extract a hidden element. Here, they are literally churning the physical body.
Because in Ayurvedic and ancient Vedic texts, the physical body isn't just meat and bones, right?
Correct. It is a repository of karma. It stores accumulated actions, desires, and qualities.
Wait, churning a dead body's thigh? That still sounds completely bizarre.
It does.
Walk me through the actual logic of how physical friction extracts abstract sin. Why the thigh specifically?
Well, in Vedic symbology, the lower half of the body is strongly associated with baser instincts, animalistic desires, and accumulated dark karma.
Okay, that makes sense.
By rigorously churning the thigh, they are using the physical body as a medium to spark a physical manifestation of that toxic karma.
They are forcing the darkness to coalesce and take form.
And it does take form.
From this process, a person is born right there in the palace, a dwarf-like man.
He emerges dark as a crow, with remarkably short arms and legs.
He has a massive jaw, a flat nose, reddish eyes, and copper-colored hair.
It is a striking, unsettling image.
And as soon as he is born, this being bows meekly to the sages. He looks at them and asks in Sanskrit, Kim Karomi?
Which translates to, what shall I do?
And the sages reply with a single command, Nishida, which means sit down.
Nishida. And because of this interaction, he's named Nishada.
But this isn't just a quirky origin story for a name, is it?
No, there is a profound cosmic function happening here. Nishada was born to act as a cosmic filter.
By taking birth specifically from the lower half of the body, from the thigh, he absorbed all of Vena's terrible accumulated sins.
He literally drew the darkness out of the bloodline.
Wow.
All the blasphemy, the cruelty, the blind ego that made Vena a tyrant, that heavy karmic weight, was extracted into the physical form of Nishada.
He took on the burden of Vena's dark karma so that the rest of the royal seed could be purified. So it's a powerful metaphor for generational trauma.
It really is.
The sages couldn't just ignore the toxicity in the royal line, and they couldn't just hope the next king would be better.
Separating the darkness wasn't just magic.
It's a representation of how families or societies must actively confront, isolate, and purge their inherited toxicity before they can move forward.
Beautifully put. Nishada takes the toxicity, bows, and steps aside.
His descendants, the Nishadas, go on to inhabit the hills and forests, living outside the mainstream Vedic society, carrying that specific karmic inheritance.
And by doing this, the royal body of Vena is completely purified. The dark anomalies have been purged.
The stage is perfectly set for the sages to churn again, this time from the arms of the king, to bring forth a pure, righteous ruler to save the world.
But the emergence of that new king is a completely different story.
It really is an incredible arc. We started with a disastrous attempt at leadership.
Putting a known tyrant in charge just because society was terrified of the dark.
We watched that tyrant become completely blinded by his own power, severing the cosmic supply chain and literally claiming to be the entire pantheon of gods.
We saw the sages attempt diplomacy, fail, and ultimately rely on the power of concentrated sound to collapse a spiritually hollow dictator.
Proving that cosmic order cannot be permanently suppressed by political ego.
And then we get that incredible realization that doing nothing is a sin in itself.
Leading to the mystical churning of a thigh to literally extract generational evil from a bloodline and restore balance to the world.
It's an immense amount of wisdom packed into one narrative.
Which brings me back to that one specific image. I want you, listening right now, to think about that broken pot metaphor.
It's so relevant today.
The sages realized they couldn't just sit peacefully by the river and chant their mantras while the world burned, or their own spiritual integrity would just leak away into the dirt.
Right.
So here is a question to take with you. Where in your own life are you letting your potential or your deeply held values leak out simply because you're choosing to ignore a problem that you actually have the power to help fix?
Something to really think about.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.